Oh, here we go. Is that better?
Hi, now I can hear you.
I see I've been talking and there's been no audio, so let's
No,
start the show over again. I started the stream and the audio wasn't working. How are you doing?
I'm good, Bruce. Sorry about minutes late today, but how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So we now we're back on track and the audio seems to be working.
Oh, good.
So we have to go all over that again, all the housekeeping stuff. But I'll go over what I already started. Welcoming everybody to our financial facts chat. Encouraging the audience, if you're watching right now, you can comment. Certainly follow us to keep updated on the shows as we go live. And we're going to be answering a lot of questions today. So if you have questions of your own on any of the topics that we're covering, please feel free to submit those in the comments section below the video. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'll see them here and we'll get to your questions as we can. But Rachel, I was just getting ready to update everybody on the CFPB rule that protects renters from eviction.
Great.
And then we can get into the questions that you have. But I guess I should start since you're with us. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
I know it's been a busy day and we're trying to keep the schedule here. We got back-to-back meetings, a lot of stuff to cover.
Yes.
But it's great to have you with us. A lot of ground to cover.
Yes, indeed.
So the CFPB rule, I was just mentioning that it basically puts the responsibility on debt collectors not to take actions that lead to evictions while people are protected by eviction moratoriums. So this shows that the CFPB can now get involved in any enforcement that puts renters out on the street due to the actions of collection agencies that might be in violation of these renter protection moratoriums. So that's essentially the announcement. There's not a whole lot new there because everybody knows that there are moratoriums in place that protect renters from eviction in different states, and that while people are dealing with past due rent, that they have time to work those things out with their landlords, with their property management companies, without fear of being put into the street. So this rule just basically puts some enforcement mechanism behind some of the actions that debt collectors might take that fly in the face of these renter protection moratoriums. So it's good news. Also, something I should mention too is that if you're a renter and you're trying to work things out and you are past due with your rent and other obligations are falling behind, it's a good idea while you're protected from these eviction moratoriums to reach out to a nonprofit credit counseling agency. And of course, you can get help with nonprofit credit counseling agencies by connecting with nonprofit credit counseling agencies through NFCC.org. So go to NFCC.org, find a credit counselor that can talk to you about your situation. They can not only help you work out a budget that makes sense, but they can also help you with strategies to affordably repay your debt and work things out with your landlord. So a good resource there. But good news, generally speaking, for renters coming from the CFPB.
Thanks, Bruce. That is good news. I think that'll really help a lot of people right now. We do have a question here. I think this is from our Ask an Expert inbox. I have bad credit that I'm trying to rebuild by making large payments every month. My mother is a cosigner on the card, and ultimately I want to get her off of it so it doesn't continue to affect her credit score. My question is, does making regular payments help build my credit score as well as hers, or just hers? So what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's often asked, and I think people ask that question also about authorized users. So we should probably tackle that as well. Yeah, there are a couple of things to keep in mind here. First of all, if you are a cosigner on an account, if you're a cosigner on a credit card account, let's just say with somebody else, That means that each of you share equal responsibility for making the payments on the account and managing the account. You also have equal access to the account, so you can both use the account to make purchases, and you can both, if you're accruing reward points on the account, you can also take advantage of cashing in the reward points. So again, cosigners are on equal footing when it comes to that. So the same is true for the impact on your credit. So if between the two of you, you decide that one person is responsible for making the payments, that person's activity in terms of making the payments affects both parties, both people. So to answer the general question here, does a cosigner's payment activity reflect on the other cosigner's credit score? The answer is yes, it does. So if you're paying on time, that has a positive impact, and your other cosigner partner can benefit from that and can take advantage of that in terms of the lift in their credit score. In reverse, the cosigner can be negatively impacted if you're missing payments and if you're paying behind. So that's why it's very important, if you are a cosigner with somebody else and you're on the same account, to keep an open flow of communication, let the other person know when you plan on making purchases, what you're, if you're going to expect any trouble making the payments on time, if you're the person designated to make the payments each month, just be careful about communication there, because getting ahead of a problem can help ease a lot of other problems that might result from that. And you don't want the account to fall behind and have that become an unpleasant surprise for the other person. And in the same way, you want to make sure that there are no other types of surprises that come up as well in the course of managing that account, making other decisions like whether or not to close the account, whether or not to ask for a credit limit increase, any changes on the account. So communication is important. A lot of people ask about authorized users as well. There are a few more limitations on whether or not an authorized user can benefit from payment activity. There are limitations as to who can be an authorized user on an account that extend beyond who can be a cosigner. But in terms of being an authorized user, there are circumstances where a qualified authorized user can benefit from the account history associated with that particular credit card or line of credit. So the answer is yes there as well, that there can be an impact. But anytime you consider taking on an authorized user or cosigner, just make sure you decide carefully, because you're all of a sudden you're merging your own financial future and your credit histories and your financial, and the fate of your financial well-being is now tied to someone else, and theirs is tied to your payment activity. So there's a lot at stake. So just decide carefully whether or not you want to get into that arrangement. But that was a very good question, and certainly one that's commonly asked.
Thanks, Bruce. I don't think we have a whole lot of other questions this week.
Yeah, we actually do. Well, there is one question that's going to be coming up on the. It's sort of a little sneak peek question that we can share.
Okay.
There's a question. There's an Ask an Expert question that we answered in long form that's going to be posting to the blog tomorrow afternoon. And I thought I could at least give touch on it a little bit and give a little bit of a preview of the question and let people know where they can find the answer. So it comes from somebody who is who's thinking about buying a house. They're going to be applying for a mortgage, and they have enough money to pay off their debt right now. But of course, that savings could be used for other purposes. And when you're buying a house, you think about all the expenses you have when you're buying a house. There's the down payment that you have to consider. There are other moving costs and things like that. So obviously, it's not a cut and dry decision as to whether or not you pay off your debt before you apply for your mortgage, or you save a little bit of it for yourself to take care of some of the other related moving expenses. So it's a really good question that comes from this particular Ask an Expert reader. And what they want to know is that among the accounts that they owe that they could pay off, they have some debt collection accounts, and they were wondering if they should go ahead and pay those off before applying for the mortgage, or let them sit if it would have any impact. And that raises a number of good questions about whether or not debt collection accounts have any impact on the decision that your mortgage lender makes as you're applying for a mortgage, and what steps you should take to resolve those. So I will, again, refer to the link in the comment section and that you see on screen, and encourage people tomorrow afternoon to visit the blog page and to find the answer to that. But in general, it's not a cut and dry answer. A lot of it depends on the type of debt collection, the age of the accounts, and what their status is. But the general answer is you don't want to take any debt collection account that's showing up on your credit report lightly, and you want to do at least something to address the issue. And there are different options that we present in the blog. Again, the link is right here, and I would strongly suggest that anybody in that situation visit the blog and read more about the answer to that question tomorrow. So especially, and that also brings attention to the fact too, that we're probably going to get a lot more home ownership questions, because this is home buying season, and a lot of people are interested in home ownership. And I personally know people who are out in the market right now, and they have a lot of questions about qualifying for a mortgage. When is the right time to borrow? What factors should they be looking for? And I also know too that it's a popular time right now for people to be refinancing their mortgage. And I know a lot of people that are in the process of doing that. And we're getting a lot of questions about the timing on refinancing mortgage, whether you should refinance, do a straight refi or a cash out refi, or whether you should do a refi that helps you consolidate some of your other debt to affordably repay it. In other words, rolling your credit card debt over into a mortgage, whether that's a good idea or not. So encourage anybody who's watching, maybe after the fact, if you're not watching live and you don't have a question about that, you can certainly submit the questions to us by going to nfcc.org and going to the Ask an Expert page, where you can submit those questions. And I'm going to put something here in the comments field that gives you the link so you can ask those questions after we go live. And we'll make sure we answer those questions as quickly as possible. We do that in a number of ways. We do that either here on the show, or we write a blog, a long form answer, which is what we're going to be posting about the mortgage question tomorrow, or we'll just send you a direct email answer to give you a quick response, especially for situations where it's an urgent issue and you need something right away. But we always make sure we answer every question that's submitted on the Ask an Expert blog, whether it's by direct email or whether it becomes a blog post. And those blog posts usually go up on Thursdays, which is tomorrow. And we've got the answer to the mortgage question that's coming up tomorrow. So we're excited about getting out there. But again, the link right here, use that if you have a question for Ask an Expert. And while you're watching, of course, you can ask here online to find out. And any question is fair game if it's personal finance. Any other questions? I don't know. We'll see. It depends.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do we have an update on, should we share an update on the upcoming interviews that we have with our counselors, or?
Yeah, we do have 2 interviews scheduled with NFCC member agency counselors. I think both of them are going to occur tomorrow. And so I think that'll be perfect timing for us to report back on how those interviews go and what kind of responses we get at our Financial Facts Chat live stream event next Wednesday.
That's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to talking to those counselors. In fact, was it day before yesterday? I was just talking to a journalist who writes a blog, and the blog was about what happens in a credit counseling session, what happens when you talk to a nonprofit credit counselor. So I can't wait for us to be able to share this content, and certainly would share the link with her as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a question that's fair game, and it's surprising how much is accomplished in a credit counseling session. I think that's one of the key takeaways that a lot of people are going to come away with after watching these videos, is just how knowledgeable the credit counselors are and how many different personal finance issues they can address directly, even in just the initial session, the first time you interact with a credit counselor. They're useful in so many different ways. And I'm just I'm more and more impressed every time I hear examples of credit counseling sessions and how people have been able to help. And it's always inspiring to hear the work that they're doing. So I can't wait to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I know we'll have some really exciting information to share with everyone next week after our conversations with the counselors.
Yeah, so I don't see any other questions that have come through. And again, to the viewers, I apologize for the first minute or two where I was muted.
It happens.
That's how a lot of people like to watch me, though, when I'm muted. So it's a little bit easier when you don't have to hear this. But yeah, we look forward to being back next week with more for you and some insight from those counselor interviews as well. And in the meantime, if you have questions or anything, again, just visit the link below and you can ask the questions, and our team of experts will respond back right away. So I guess that's it. Anything else you have to add, Rachel?
No, I think that about covers it. So thank you so much, Bruce. This was great.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rachel, and enjoy the rest of your day and have a great week.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.